We're in Dublin. He's doing a seminar. I'm basically there to lift heavy and show off. And yeah, I thought I'd just do a Q&A with him. So I posted on YouTube. So I'll go through those first and then I'll go through the Facebook questions. What is it like being in the presence of Clarence Kennedy?
It's pretty underwhelming. He's not that impressive. No, it's been fun. It's really cool to have, we ended up communicating with each other, and then you said that you were interested in my videos. I thought it was pretty flattering that you even knew about them and that
I watched all of them.
Yeah, you watched them all.
Yeah.
So that was the coolest thing. Like, we were able to make this happen like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's just goes to show like your character and how it was just an easy thing for me to do, and now we're making it happen. I like when things like this pan out. I feel like a lot of times people, they want to meet up, random stuff happens. A lot of times in YouTube that happens.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we ended up making it happen, and being in your presence, and at least training has been awesome. So yeah.
How to get over the fear of getting under the bar for a max snatch or even clean and jerk attempt?
I think it shouldn't make a difference getting under the bar or like the fear of it, whether it's a max attempt or it's a 90% or 80%.
Yeah.
If you're properly periodizing your training, getting under the bar is just going to be a natural thing. If you train 80 to 90% and you end up getting 30 or 40 reps a week, I don't know, it depends on what phase you're in, at those numbers, when you decide to take the max attempt at 100 plus, you should be able to do it. So it's less of I know there's like a mental fear with a lot of people, but it really depends on how much volume you accrue at that range, 80 to 90%.
What I actually like to do is when I do like clean pulls and snatch pulls, like at like 110% of my max, like snatch or clean jerk, I like to like imagine I'm gonna snatch or clean jerk it. That's what I like to do.
No, I think of course. I mean, that's the purpose of an overload pull. That like you're gonna snatch it or you're gonna clean it.
The best cardio for weightlifting in terms of minimal injury risk and the least training experience. I've been curious ever since Zack's bodybuilding for weightlifting video.
Right. Yeah. Well, so on that one, I was running, and I wouldn't suggest it if you're going to be maximally snatching and clean and jerking and training. Yeah. I do think, though, that low impact stuff is always going to be best. So for shoulder health, I'm thinking like that swimming would be tremendous, because you're actually conditioning like the small little fibers in your shoulder. Yeah. So you're taking them through this huge big range of motion, but you're conditioning them at the same time. So it's like you're working mobility and you're working the fiber as well. I think that swimming is massive. If you could do that, that would be best. Yeah. Other than that, I mean, if you cycle or if you...
I cycle a lot.
Yeah.
I cycle a lot. Like, I cycle all the time.
Yeah.
Have you seen any pulling strength carry over from deadlifting?
There's been a lot of discussion about this. I think of it as the other way around. Yeah. Like for me, I didn't deadlift for like a year straight. I just only snatched and clean and jerked and did pulls like that. Yeah. And then someone was like, "Do you want to deadlift?" And I was like, "All you have to do is pull it to here. You don't have to pull it to here." You know what I mean? Yeah. So to me, it carried over that way. Obviously, I think just getting stronger in general, like it's going to help you to a certain extent. Yeah. So the thing about deadlifting is your back position. It's not as important, right? So people who maximally deadlift, like they can round thoracically. Yeah. And obviously that's not ideal, but they can still make lifts and they can still overload and periodize with a rounded back. Yeah. That's not everyone, that's not the case, but that's the one thing that I've seen. Like that can't possibly carry over to the snatch and clean jerk. General strength, of course. Yeah. But a rounded thoracic spine, there's no way. I mean, weightlifting it's fully extended. Yeah. So,
why does China and Russia dominate Olympic weightlifting?
Well, currently they don't.
Yeah.
Because they don't compete.
Like I hear a lot of people say that, but like Russia, I don't think they have won Olympic gold medal in the Olympics for like a very long time.
Really?
Yeah. Like
2008.
Yeah, 2008.
2008? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't I mean, China for sure though. They do actually dominate.
Yeah.
For sure.
190 power clean at 69.
I mean, so Shi Jiang 190 power clean and jerk. Okay, don't forget that. At a 69, I mean that's ridiculous.
And the world record's like 198.
But to be honest, I think his ratio is a lot smaller than most people at that level, like for power clean to actual clean.
Yeah.
But that's the most ridiculous excuse for that's a savage lift. Like,
yeah,
by anything. Why does Russia and China? I mean, the easiest answer is like state funded and state run Olympic organizations. We have big time carryover into track and field at the university level, especially when I was working at Texas A&M. We can bring on 100 student athletes to be trained in track and field, and then they can go on from there. So our pool is much wider in those sports, in those Olympic sports. Again, football, basketball, baseball, those are on another level. But we don't have that same process in weightlifting. And so what you have in China and Russia, you have those massive pools to pull from in those fringe sports. And weightlifting is one of them. So as far as that goes, like, yeah, state sanctioned and state run program like weightlifting, that's 100% the reason.
Are American weightlifters paid much at the moment?
They have a stipend right now.
When does the amateur status?
It's only amateur and professional is only a thing because of the NCAA. And like the NCAA has so much money, and that's why we're so good at certain sports is because of our massive, highly budgeted NCAA system in which weightlifting has no part in. That's why we're good at track and field. That's why we're good at swimming, because those Olympic sports are supported by the NCAA.
Is there any difference between a professional and an amateur athlete? Is the professional gets paid?
Yes, yeah, entirely, yeah.
What does Zack perceive as his strengths as a creator?
I try to think about how I would coach someone on the spot, and if they ask me why I coach them the way they do, I would explain it in that way. Because I think what helps people in training is not just me saying, okay, you need your shoulders to be over the bar, or you need to be more extended when you pull. It helps me to say those things, but also tell them why they need to do it.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot easier for a lifter or an athlete or someone who I'm coaching to understand why I teach them that, or teach them whatever it is that way, so that they get a little bit more motivation, so they know why they're doing it and they can keep moving on and on. And I try to do that as best as I can visually and within a short time frame. So I think as far as skills goes, as a creator, that's what I try to do, and I hope that I'm doing it in a good way.
And how do you improve the flexibility of the wrist for the cleans?
So it's not wrist mobility, right? So if you're having issues in the wrist with your front rack, it's most likely your ability to extend thoracically and hold the bar high, right? Because if you're having pressure in the wrist, that usually means that like you're right here, or right. The mobility of the wrist doesn't quite matter if you're able to open up properly, right, and get your hand on the bar and it rests on that shelf. I would look towards your thoracic spine, the other joints in your front rack, because this is the main driver for the lift, not this. As far as mobility goes, this is kind of what we were talking about before.
That's our day today.
Find what you can do. So, for instance, if you want better squat mobility, find what weight. If I get 60 kilos on your back, whatever, can you get down really low, like really low? Can you do that with 60 kilos? Great. Let's do that 20 times today, and then next week let's do it 30 times, and then next week let's go back to 20, but let's go up to 70 kilos. Right. Next thing you know, you're periodizing. But you're periodizing full range of motion. You're not looking at what you can maximally do as a squat. You're looking at what you can maximally do in the full range squat. And essentially by doing that, by thinking about range of motion and periodizing range of motion, you're working on mobility, right? I think people would much rather grab a foam roller or a lacrosse ball.
I see it all the time in gyms.
Than squat more, it's as simple as that.
You said in your strict pressing video that strict pressing strength and jerking strength does not necessarily correlate.
Yeah.
Can the same be said for push pressing and strength and jerking strength?
I like this question a lot, and I actually I'm going to do a video on upper body strength for weightlifting. Technique is a must-have. Explosive power with the lower body is super important, but I think general strength extends into the upper body as well, especially in women's weightlifting. You notice like the best women's weightlifters, in my opinion, have the best upper body power. So someone like Maddie Rogers, for instance, she has been tumbling and flipping like she did. I think she started with gymnastics, but she did competitive cheerleading. Then she did CrossFit. And so she has that upper body power. Yeah. And all they had to do was build up her legs, and she started breaking American record after American record. And, you know, she's a world medalist or whatever. So in that sense, I think that building upper body strength with strict pressing can be very valuable. Strict pressing and jerking strength don't correlate, but strength and jerking strength correlate.
Yeah, makes sense.
So like whole body strength is very important.
Yeah.
Right? I think if you were to take the best weightlifters at any given time and you teach them how to bench, they could do pretty damn good because they're just generally strong.
If you could have dinner with any 3 weightlifters living or dead, or from any decade, whatever.
Okay, Paul Anderson.
Okay.
Do you know who Paul Anderson is?
Yeah.
He's a beast.
Yeah, like I think he's the strongest human who's ever lived, in my opinion. I think who's that Sir? The Sir CYR. Literally, they named the Rogue Sir bar dumbbell after him. Like he's not really a weightlifter; he's just a strongman. Yeah, and they said that his there's legend about strongman. I think that's really cool. But Paul Anderson, I think David Riggert would be pretty crazy. Yeah, it depends. It's like the cigarette smoking, vodka drinking Riggert is the one who I'd want to be with, not like the responsible older dad. I would say Lasha, but I'm thinking more about personality. Like
John North.
It's called the athletic tiger snatch shingle thruster.
I think Muhammad Ehab, maybe.
What is it like lifting while being a bloody giant? You're 6'4". That's pretty tall.
I've always been decently athletic, so able to take on coaching cues and so in that sense, my progression through weightlifting, at least in the beginning stages, was really fast. And then after that, it was all about gaining strength and all of that good stuff. It's been hard, man. Squatting for me is crazy. And snatching for me, the range of motion's massive. The range of motion is big, but it's been really awesome. It's hard to explain. I almost feel like I can coach the lifts better because I have to do so much more mental prep before a snatch, maybe. And that's not to say that it's easier for so-and-so to snatch than for me. That might not be true, but I think that being tall has kind of given me this edge. That's it.
Yeah. From a coaching point of view.
From a coaching point of view, from even an athletic point of view, being tall and not being in place is. I brought up Jack White from the White Stripes. He said that he used to. He had this really shitty guitar out of a Sears catalog. It was plastic. The strings were horrible, and he actually liked playing it because it added another dimension to playing guitar. So it was that other thing that he had to accomplish, and it made him better. And it's kind of the same thing here. There's just one more thing that I have to try to overcome. So.
What do you think of the advantages of being tall and weightlifting?
Pulling.
No.
Pulling for sure. I mean, that's it. I'm a better snatcher than I should be, I think.
That's easy to make more momentum because you're not really.
Yeah, and when I hit my hips, the bar's higher than when you hit your hips. So at that point, it's just how strong is my overhead squat, and it's not very strong.
Do you think Clarence is really that strong, or is it all in that cheap $5 watch, crappy knee strap, and serial killer haircut?
Well, I think that's a deadly combination. This
serial killer.
This Casio watch and the knee, that little knee tape that you have,
Tissue paper, some people call it.
Yeah, and the haircut for sure. That's a deadly combination. Like you're gonna destroy weights with that combination.
Where does his knowledge of weightlifting training theory come from? How did he get involved in it, and what or who did he learn from?
I started training, when I was younger for sports, and then it became more intense when I went to university for lacrosse. And then after that, I felt like I still had potential as an athlete, or I just wanted to be stronger. So I started doing CrossFit, and then that slowly turned into like a program that was geared more toward weightlifting, and then you would add CrossFit on top of it.
Yeah.
And then I did my first competition, and it just kind of snowballed. Over the course of 6 years, I've gotten a lot of different certifications, met a lot of weightlifting coaches, read a ton of books, and then I've worked really, really long hours in collegiate strength and conditioning facilities.
Yeah.
So from a training standpoint, that's where I've learned most of it. But as far as Olympic weightlifting, it's been pure just like inundation with, videos, with books, and then to be honest, a lot of it comes from my own training.
Yeah.
And now that I'm coaching like 20 plus more people remotely, like my knowledge is just going way up every day. So that's kind of how it's worked for me.
What are the best books? 3 best, do you think?
Laputin and Oleshko's book is phenomenal. It's Managing the Training of Weightlifters. And the reason why it's phenomenal is because it's a compilation of a lot of different books. So they're quoting like R.A. Roman, who's a big one, Zatsiorsky, Verkhoshansky, all these like big names. They're just pulling like little tidbits from it. So it's kind of tough to read because it's a translation, obviously. Tudor Bumpa's Periodization is a good one. I love the Juggernaut Strength. That method is really easy to read. 531 is super easy to read. Like you can read 531 in like 2 hours.
Yeah. Greg Everett's book is pretty good as well.
Greg Everett's book is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. What do you think of weightlifting at the moment, like with all the drug testing, like and all the corruption in general?
It's in a really hard place. Yeah. Like the retests weren't enough of a show. I think the death of a sport is when it's out of the Olympics, regardless of what people think. Yeah. Regardless of what people think of the Olympics, the IOC is incredibly corrupt if we haven't seen evidence of that already. But when you take a sport out of the Olympics, you take all of the gas out of it. All of a sudden, no one gives a shit about it. The state of weightlifting in America is pretty great, but it's not that great. I think we thought it was much better than it was.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good at the moment.
I think it's really good, but it's not. I think a lot of people have a higher perspective of what it is.
Yeah.
I think so. Like Wes Kitts winning was big. Winning Pan Ams was huge. Like we haven't had a big male lifter win Pan Ams in a long time.
And Harrison winning.
And Harrison
winning or getting bronze medal.
Yeah. But I think the state of weightlifting. We have a lot of hobbyist weightlifters now who are either doomed to end up quitting weightlifting and hit that weightlifting purgatory, which does nothing for the sport.
It kind of is good in some ways, I think.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, I mean, I've always said that CrossFit is a net positive. Exposing people to snatching and clean and jerking can only lead to more people snatching and clean and jerking better on the world stage. But what we're seeing is people never really taking that leap. That's what I'm scared of. They go from CrossFit and they're like, oh, I'm really good at snatching and clean and jerking, but they kind of stay in that.
Yeah. Kind of do CrossFit, kind of do weightlifting.
You kind of do CrossFit, kind of do weightlifting. And that's not good for anyone.
Yeah.
But the state of weightlifting, internationally, I mean, it's pretty simple to understand. Like the retest didn't help us. We have 2 of the biggest countries not competing currently, and they're going to come back for Worlds. Is that their first competition back?
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We were actually talking earlier today about CrossFit and how they teach the squash and snatch and clean and jerk. What's your opinion on CrossFit coaches in general?
Squat development and clean and jerk development and snatch development, like overhead squat development, it's a very specialized thing.
Yeah.
And it takes very specialized programming, I believe.
Yeah.
So if someone is not overhead squatting well, I believe that they deserve more time than the typical structure. So they may overhead squat once a week. They may not even overhead squat once a week, but that's no way to develop a better range of motion in your squat is to only squat once a week.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what I believe maintains throughout the whole CrossFit experience, is that there's so many different things where they don't spend enough time on it because it's kind of anti-specialization.
Yeah, for sure.
And what they don't realize is, like, if you just go through and like specialize in all of the movements, like if you did 4 blocks of like, or 4 weeks, like a single block of like squatting 3 times a week.
Yeah.
You would do better, I believe, than the people that just do CrossFit the whole time and then kind of meeting back up later.
Yeah.
Like, because that skill of squatting is now kind of much higher, and so now you can focus on other stuff.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my opinion in general in CrossFit, is that they don't specialize enough.
So we were talking earlier today, and you said to me that you think weightlifting is just dangerous, like it can't be done like in a safe way at all.
I think anything can be done safely.
Yeah.
But it's that certain point where you push yourself to see what you can do.
Yeah.
To the point where it's actually less healthy. I think there were some studies done about cyclists or marathon runners that were technically in like the best possible shape for humans. There was something done. There were some tests that proved that like they actually were like unhealthy. But from even just an anecdotal perspective of weightlifting, like if you are a weightlifter and you compete in weightlifting, your knees are always going to hurt. Your shoulders, your back, like in that sense, it's not even remotely healthy.
Yeah. Like my shoulder hurts, my hips hurt, my knees hurt at the moment. So
yeah,
that's not
like,
healthy at all.
Like that's definitely not healthy. Interesting. Also, what is healthy? What's our standard for healthy? Like, do we just carry injuries? And then, if you want to push yourself to your limits, God, weightlifting is not safe. If you want to push yourself to your limits in rugby, in football, in basketball, like none of them are safe. None of them are healthy. If safe or healthy is no injury, then goddamn weightlifting is not for you. You know what I mean? There's obviously versions. Like if I went in and snatched 70 every day, and that was it. I just like snatched 70 kilos and like walked out the gym. Am I really a weightlifter though?
Yeah, I guess.
You know, like that's safe, but I don't think I'm a weightlifter at that point. So, yeah.
All right, that's the end of the Q&A. Thanks for asking the questions on YouTube and Facebook.
Yeah,
and,
thank you guys so much.
I'll release a training video in a few days, so check that out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been just an absolute pleasure. Just so great. I just want to thank, like Owen for being here and so supportive.
Being jacked in the corner.
I don't know. You should probably cut it before all that.
Yeah.
No, you're not going to cut it.
Yeah. I got like 3 hours sleep and I drove for like 4 hours. It was really stressful because I didn't know where I was going and I got lost multiple times and went in circles.
Good. Let's train then. You two are sharing a bar.